The moon of 7 was dying. Toxic green clouds rolled across the broken landscape like waves in a poisoned ocean. The air itself was dangerous. Every breath without a mask meant death within minutes. The ground shook with small earthquakes that split rocks and opened new holes that leaked yellow gas from deep below. Ho pressed his back against a fallen pillar of black stone. His breathing was heavy inside his helmet. The filter was working hard to keep him alive. Around him, the ruins of an ancient alien city stretched in every direction. Nobody knew who had built this place. They had been dead for thousands of years. Now the Coalition used this moon for training missions. Simple missions. Safe missions. This mission was supposed to be simple too. All units fall back to Extraction Point Delta, the voice of Commander crackled through the radio. Repeat, all units fall back immediately. The seismic activity is increasing. We have 20 minutes before the whole sector becomes unstable. Ho checked his scanner. His squad was already moving. He could see their signals heading north toward the landing zone. But 2 signals were not moving. They were half a kilometer to the east, deep inside the ruins. "Commander, I'm reading 2 life signs that aren't moving," Ho said into his radio. "It's end. They're trapped in Sector 7. There was a pause. The silence lasted too long. "We see them, Sergeant Park," Commander finally replied. "The structure in Sector 7 has collapsed. Our scans show heavy debris. Rescue would take at least 40 minutes. "Then we need to start now," Ho said. "Negative, we don't have 40 minutes. We have 20, maybe less." Ho felt something cold grow in his chest. "Sir, you're not suggesting we leave them." "I'm not suggesting anything. I'm giving an order. All units to Extraction Point Delta. That includes you, Sergeant." The cold feeling became ice. Ho had been a soldier for 15 years. He had fought in 3 wars. He had watched friends die. He had killed enemies. He had done things that still visited him in his dreams, but he had never left anyone behind. Not once. Not ever. "Commander, with respect, I can't do that." "Sergeant Park, this is a direct order. Those 2 knew the risks when they signed up. The pilot went too deep into the ruins. The tracker followed her. They made their choice. They made a mistake. That's not the same as choosing to die." "It is in my book. Now move your feet, Sergeant, or I'll have you court-martialed when we get back." Ho looked at his scanner again. The 2 signals were still there, still alive, still waiting for help that wasn't coming. He thought about there were a species of feline humanoids. They had fur, pointed ears, and eyes that could see in the dark. They were proud. Too proud sometimes. Was young, barely 20 by human standards. She was an excellent pilot, but she was also curious, too curious. She had probably seen something interesting in the ruins and gone to investigate. He thought about there were wolf-like beings. They walked on 2 legs but had the faces of wolves. They were loyal to a fault. Was a tracker one of the best? She could find anything or anyone. If had gone into danger, would have followed to protect her. That was just who was. They were both good people, good soldiers. They didn't deserve to die because of one mistake. "Sergeant Park, I'm not hearing your boots moving," Commander said. Ho made his decision. He reached up and switched off his radio. The commander's voice disappeared. For a moment, there was only the sound of his own breathing and the distant rumble of the unstable ground. He started walking east. The ruins were dangerous even without the earthquakes. The ancient builders had created tall towers and deep tunnels. Most of them had fallen long ago, but some still stood. They leaned at strange angles, ready to collapse at any moment. Ho moved carefully between them, his eyes always watching for movement. He found the collapsed structure after 10 minutes of walking. It had been a large building once, maybe a temple or a palace. Now it was just a mountain of broken stone and twisted metal. Somewhere under all that weight, 2 people were trapped. Ho activated his deep scanner. The device hummed as it sent waves through the debris. After a few seconds, it showed him what he needed to see. There was a pocket of open space about 15 meters down. 2 life signs were inside it. They were alive, but one of them was very weak. Ho shouted through his helmet speaker, "Can you hear me?" For a moment, nothing. Then a voice came through the pile of debris, faint but clear. "Human, is that you?" It was voice. She sounded surprised and confused. "It's Sergeant Park. I'm going to get you out of there." The commander ordered everyone to leave. His voice was bitter. "We heard the transmission." I turned off my radio. There was a pause. "You turned off your radio. You disobeyed a direct order." "Yes." "Why?" Ho started examining the debris, looking for the best way in. "Because leaving people to die isn't something I do. We're not your people. We're not even your species. You're my squad. That makes you my people." He found what he was looking for. There was a gap between 2 large pieces of stone. It was small, but he could fit through it. He started climbing. "The human is crazy," he heard say to someone else. Perhaps that was voice. It was weaker than and there was pain in it. But he is here. That is more than the others can say. Ho squeezed through the gap and found himself in a narrow tunnel of debris. He had to crawl on his hands and knees. The stone pressed against his back. One wrong move, one small earthquake, and the whole thing would come down on top of him. He kept crawling. The tunnel went down and then sideways. It twisted and turned through the wreckage. Sometimes he had to dig with his hands to make the passage wider. His gloves tore. His fingers bled. He didn't stop. After what felt like hours but was probably only 15 minutes, he saw light ahead. Not natural light, but the blue glow of an emergency lamp. He pushed through the last of the debris and fell into an open space. Was there sitting against a wall. Her orange fur was covered in gray dust. Her left arm hung at a wrong angle, clearly broken. Her eyes, large and green like a cat's, stared at him with an expression he couldn't read. Was there too, lying on the ground nearby. Her gray fur was darker in some places. Blood. Her leg was trapped under a heavy beam of metal. She was breathing, but her eyes were half closed. "You actually came," said. Her voice was flat, like she still didn't believe it. Ho moved to first. She was the more injured of the two. He checked her pulse and her breathing. Both were weak but steady. "How long has she been like this?" he asked. "Since the collapse, about 30 minutes, winced as she moved. I tried to lift the beam, I couldn't." Ho examined the beam. It was heavy but not impossible. He positioned himself and got a good grip. "When I lift this, you need to pull her out," he said. "My arm is broken." "Use your other arm." Looked at him for a moment, then nodded. She moved closer too, getting ready. Ho took a deep breath, then he lifted. The beam was heavier than he expected. Pain shot through his back and shoulders. His legs trembled, but he didn't let go. He lifted higher, giving room to work. She grabbed his uniform with her good hand and pulled, groaned but didn't wake up. Inch by inch dragged her free. "She's out," shouted. Ho let go of the beam. It crashed back down with a sound that echoed through the small space. He fell to his knees, breathing hard. "You're strong," said. There was surprise in her voice. "I thought humans were weak." "Everyone thinks humans are weak," Ho said between breaths. "We're used to it." He checked his leg. It was badly crushed but not completely destroyed. If he could stop the bleeding and keep her stable, she might keep the leg. Might. He opened his medical kit and got to work. "Why?" asked while he worked. "Why did you really come?" Ho didn't look up from what he was doing. "I told you, you're my squad." That's not a real answer. No one risks their life for aliens they barely know. Not even other aliens do that. Ho paused. He thought about the question. He thought about all the years he had served, all the battles he had fought, all the people he had lost. "When I was young," he said slowly, "my grandfather told me something. He said that the measure of a person isn't what they do when it's easy. It's what they do when it's hard. when it costs them something, when no one would blame them for walking away. He finished wrapping Sleg and moved to Czech's arm. Anyone can be brave when there's no danger, he continued. Anyone can be kind when it costs nothing. The real test is what you do when everything tells you to leave, to save yourself, to look away. That's when you find out who you really are. Was quiet for a moment. And who are you, human? Ho looked at her. His eyes were tired but steady. I'm the one who stays. The ground shook. Dust fell from above. The rumble was louder now, closer. We need to move, Ho said. Can you walk? Yes. Good, I'll carry. He lifted the unconscious wolf woman onto his shoulders. She was heavy, but he had carried heavier. He started toward the tunnel he had come through. That passage is too small, said. You can't fit through there with her on your back. Then we find another way. He looked around the space. There had to be another exit, another path, something. His scanner beeped. He checked it and felt hope spark in his chest. There was a tunnel leading down, deeper into the ruins. His scanner showed it connected to an underground passage that came up outside the collapsed building. This way, he said. They started moving. Behind them the ceiling cracked. The collapse was spreading. But they were still alive, and Ho was not going to let that change. The underground passage was dark and cold. The walls were made of the same black stone as the ruins above, but here they were smooth and carved with strange symbols. The ancient builders had made this place with care. It had survived thousands of years. Ho hoped it would survive a few more hours. He walked slowly, carefully, was heavy on his shoulders, and the ground was uneven. One wrong step could send them both falling into the darkness. Behind him followed. She held her broken arm against her chest and used her good hand to steady herself against the wall. How much further? Asked. Her voice echoed in the tunnel. Ho checked his scanner. About 300 meters. The passage goes up ahead. We'll come out in the eastern sector. The eastern sector is still inside the danger zone. Yes, but it's better than being buried under a collapsed building. Made a sound that might have been agreement or might have been annoyance. It was hard to tell. They walked in silence for a while. The only sounds were their footsteps and Ho's heavy breathing. Carrying was taking a lot out of him. His muscles burned. His back ached. But he didn't slow down. He couldn't afford to. She's getting colder, said suddenly. Ho stopped. He gently lowered to the ground and checked her vital signs. Was right. His body temperature was dropping. Her heartbeat was weaker than before. She's going into shock, Ho said. The blood loss is catching up to her. He opened his medical kit again. He had already used most of his supplies on her leg, but he still had a few things left. He pulled out a thermal blanket and wrapped it around her. Then he found his last injector of stabilizer medicine. He pressed it against her neck and pushed the button. The medicine hissed as it entered her bloodstream. Will that help? Asked. She was standing nearby, watching with her big green eyes. It should keep her stable for a few more hours. After that, she needs real medical care. And if we don't reach medical care in a few hours? Ho didn't answer. He didn't need to. They both knew what would happen. He picked up again and started walking, followed. You know a lot about medicine, said after a while, for a regular soldier. I'm not a regular soldier. I was a combat medic before I transferred to the coalition forces. A combat medic, so you're used to saving lives. I'm used to trying to save lives. I don't always succeed. There was something in his voice that made look at him more closely. She couldn't see his face behind his helmet, but she could hear the weight in his words. You've lost people, she said. It wasn't a question. Everyone who fights long enough loses people. Who did you lose? Ho was quiet for a moment. The question was personal, too personal. But something about this situation, this dark tunnel, this moment between life and death, made him want to answer. My brother, he said finally, 10 years ago, He was a soldier too. We were in the same unit. There was an attack. He was injured. I tried to save him, but I couldn't. I'm sorry, said. The words sounded strange coming from her, like she wasn't used to saying them. It was a long time ago. But you still carry it. Yes, I always will. They reached a place where the tunnel split into two paths. Ho checked his scanner. Both paths eventually led to the surface, but one was shorter. He took the shorter one. Is that why you came back for us? Asked. Because you couldn't save your brother. Maybe, I don't know. I just know that when I heard the commander give the order to leave you, something inside me said no. It wasn't a decision I made with my head. It was just who I am. Humans are strange, said. So I've been told. The tunnel started to slope upward. The air was getting warmer, which meant they were getting closer to the surface. But the warmth also brought toxic gases. Ho checked his breathing mask to make sure it was still working. I'm fine, said, pushing his hand away. I don't need you to check on me every 5 minutes. Your arm is broken, and you've been breathing recycled air for over an hour. I'll check on you as often as I want. Made a frustrated sound. Her ears flattened against her head. You're very annoying, human. My name is Ho. What? You keep calling me human. My name is Ho. If we're going to survive this together, you should probably use it. Stared at him for a moment. Her tail twitched behind her. Fine, she said. Ho. He nodded. Good, now keep moving, we're almost there. They climbed for another 10 minutes. The slope got steeper. Ho's legs were screaming at him to stop, but he pushed through the pain. He had been through worse. Much worse. Finally, they saw light ahead. Real light, not the glow of a lamp. It was the sickly green light of the toxic sky, but it was still daylight. They had made it out. Ho emerged from the tunnel into a wide open area surrounded by fallen pillars. The ground here was cracked and broken. Steam rose from the cracks, carrying the smell of sulfur. In the distance, he could see the ruins of the city stretching toward the horizon. He sat down gently and looked around. They were in the eastern sector, just as his scanner had said. The extraction point was about 2 kilometers to the north. If they moved fast, they might be able to catch the shuttle before it left. But there was a problem. The ground between here and the extraction point was covered with toxic pools and unstable terrain. With unconscious and injured, moving fast wasn't possible. We need to rest, said. She was breathing hard and her fur was damp with sweat. Just for a few minutes. Ho wanted to argue, but he knew she was right. They were all exhausted. A short rest would help them move faster later. 5 minutes, he said, no more. He found a spot behind a fallen pillar where they would be hidden from view. He laid down and sat beside her, keeping watch. Sat across from him, cradling her broken arm. Why do they call this place 7? Asked after a moment. I don't know. Someone probably named it after someone they loved, or maybe they just liked the sound of it. It's a terrible place. Why would anyone name something they loved after a terrible place? People are strange that way. They find beauty in dark places, hope in hopeless situations. Looked around at the broken landscape. I don't see any beauty here. Look harder. She frowned at him, clearly thinking he was making fun of her. But then she actually looked. She looked at the way the green clouds moved across the sky like a slow dance. She looked at the ancient pillars, still standing after thousands of years. She looked at the steam rising from the ground, creating patterns in the air. I suppose there is a certain elegance to the decay, she admitted. There you go. Shook her head. You're a strange human, Ho. I'll take that as a compliment. A soft sound made them both look down, was stirring. Her eyes fluttered open, confused and unfocused. Where? She started to say. Her voice was rough and weak. Easy, Ho said, kneeling beside her. You're safe. We got you out of the collapse. His yellow eyes found his face. For a moment she just stared at him, trying to understand. The human, she whispered. You stayed. Yes. Why? It was the same question had asked. Ho was starting to wonder if aliens really couldn't understand the concept of helping others without a reason. Because it was the right thing to do, he said simply. Continued to stare at him. Her nose twitched as she smelled the air around him. Could smell emotions, Ho remembered. They could tell when someone was lying, when someone was afraid, when someone was angry. You're not lying, said. There was wonder in her voice. You truly believe that? Of course I do. His eyes moved too. He's telling the truth. His ears perked up. I know, I didn't believe it either. Humans are, paused, searching for the right word, not what the stories say. What do the stories say? Ho asked. And exchanged a look. It was who answered. The stories say that humans are weak, physically weak, mentally weak. The stories say that humans are selfish, that they only care about themselves and their own kind. The stories say that humans will abandon anyone who slows them down. Ho listened quietly. He had heard these things before. Every human in the coalition had heard them. The other species thought humans were the weakest members of the galactic community. They tolerated humans because humans were useful in certain situations, but they didn't respect them. Do you believe those stories? Ho asked. Looked at him. Her green eyes were serious now. I used to, she said, before today. Tried to sit up, but Ho gently pushed her back down. Don't move. Your leg is badly injured. I stopped the bleeding, but you need to stay still. I can smell my own blood, said. I know how bad it is. She looked at her leg, wrapped in bandages that Ho had made from his own spare clothing. You used your clothes to bandage me. I ran out of medical supplies. You will be cold. I'll survive. Reached out and touched his hand. Her paw was warm despite her blood loss. Thank you, she said, for staying, for saving us. Ho felt something tight in his chest loosen a little. We're not saved yet. We still need to get to the extraction point. Then let's go, said, trying to stand again. No, Ho's voice was firm. You can't walk, I'll carry you. You're already tired. Carrying me will slow you down. I don't care. Looked at him for a long moment, then she nodded. You're very stubborn human. Ho corrected her. His name is Ho. Apparently we're supposed to use it now. His mouth curved into something that might have been a smile. On a wolf face, it was hard to tell. Ho, she said, thank you, Ho. He nodded and picked her up again. His body protested, but he ignored it. There would be time to rest later, after they were safe. Let's move, he said. We have a shuttle to catch. They started walking north toward the extraction point. The ground was difficult, full of cracks and pools of toxic liquid. Ho picked his way carefully, always looking for the safest path. Behind him followed, her tail low and her ears alert. They had survived the collapse. They had survived the tunnel, but their journey was far from over. And somewhere in the distance, Ho could hear the sound of the ground beginning to shake again. The sky was getting darker, not from night because 7 had no real night cycle. The darkness came from the storm clouds gathering on the horizon. They were thick and heavy, colored a deep purple that looked almost black. Lightning flashed inside them, silent at this distance. That's an acid storm, said, her voice tight. We need to find shelter. Ho looked at the clouds and then at his scanner. The extraction point was still over a kilometer away. They could reach it in 30 minutes if they moved fast, but with on his back and his broken arm, moving fast was impossible. How long until the storm reaches us? He asked. Tilted her head, using her sharp senses to judge the wind and the clouds. 20 minutes, maybe less. Then we need to move faster. Ho, you're already exhausted. You can barely stand. It was true. His legs felt like they were made of stone. Every step was a battle against his own body, but stopping wasn't an option. I can make it, he said. grabbed his arm with her good hand. Her grip was surprisingly strong. "Listen to me, human. I know you want to save us. I know you have this need to help. But if you collapse in the middle of that storm, we all die. All three of us." Ho looked at her. Her green eyes were fierce and serious. She wasn't trying to be cruel. She was trying to keep them alive. "What do you suggest?" he asked. "There." She pointed to a structure about 200 meters to the left. It was one of the ancient buildings, still mostly intact. "We shelter there until the storm passes." "That will cost us time." "Time doesn't matter if we're dead." Stirred on Ho's back. "She's right," the wolf woman said weakly. "The acid storms on this moon can melt through standard armor in minutes. We need shelter." Ho looked at the approaching storm, then at the building. He didn't like it. Every minute they delayed was a minute the extraction shuttle got closer to leaving without them. But N were right. They couldn't survive the storm in the open. "Fine," he said, "let's go." They moved as quickly as they could toward the structure. The wind was picking up now, carrying the first drops of toxic rain. Each drop sizzled when it hit the ground. Ho felt one land on his shoulder and immediately burned through the outer layer of his uniform. "Move," he shouted. They ran, sprinted ahead, her injured arm pressed against her chest. Ho followed, carrying as fast as he could. The rain was getting heavier. More drops hit him, burning tiny holes in his clothes and equipment. The building was close now, just 50 meters, 40, 30. Something hit Ho's back. Not rain, something larger. He stumbled but kept moving. The acid was eating through his thermal blanket if it reached her skin. "Almost there," shouted from ahead. She had reached the building and found an entrance. "Hurry." 20 meters, 10, 5. Ho threw himself through the doorway just as the full force of the storm arrived. The acid rain pounded against the stone walls with a sound like 1,000 drums. Inside, the three of them lay on the ground, breathing hard. "Is everyone okay?" Ho gasped. "I'm fine," said. No answer. Ho quickly rolled over and checked on. She was unconscious again, but her breathing was steady. The acid had burned through the thermal blanket but hadn't reached her skin. He let out a breath of relief. "She's okay, just unconscious." Moved to sit beside them. Her fur was singed in several places where the acid had touched her, but she didn't seem seriously hurt. "That was close," she said. "Too close." They sat in silence, listening to the storm rage outside. The building was old but solid. The ancient builders had known what they were doing. The acid rain couldn't penetrate these walls. Ho took the time to check their supplies. He had one water bottle left, half full. His medical kit was empty. His spare clothes were gone, used as bandages for. His scanner was still working, but the battery was low. "How long will the storm last?" he asked. "Acid storms on 7 usually last between 1 and 3 hours, said. 3 hours. The shuttle will be long gone by then." "Yes." Ho closed his eyes. He had known this might happen. From the moment he turned off his radio and decided to stay, he had known he might not make it back. But knowing something and accepting it were two different things. "You should have left us," said quietly. Ho opened his eyes. "What?" "You should have left us. You would have made the shuttle. You would have survived." "I would have had to live with leaving you. That's not the same as surviving." Was quiet for a moment. Then she moved closer to him and sat down. Her shoulder touched his. "You really believe that, don't you? That saving us matters more than saving yourself?" "It's not about what matters more. It's about what kind of person I want to be. I don't want to be someone who leaves people behind. Even if those people are aliens." Ho looked at her. In the dim light of the building, her green eyes seemed to glow. "You keep using that word, aliens, like it means something, like being different species means we can't care about each other. Doesn't it? The and the have been at war 3 times in our history. We barely trust each other, and we've been neighbors for 1,000 years. Humans have only been part of the galactic community for 50 years. Why would you care about us? Ho thought about the question. He thought about all the wars humans had fought against each other throughout history. He thought about all the times humans had divided themselves into groups and declared each other enemies. And he thought about all the times humans had reached across those divides to help each other anyway. Because caring isn't about who deserves it, he said finally. It's about who needs it. You needed help. I was there. That's enough. His ears twitched. She didn't say anything, but her tail curled around to touch his leg. It was a small gesture, but Ho understood it. It was her way of saying thank you. The storm continued to rage. Ho used the time to rest as much as he could. He knew they would need to move again as soon as the storm passed, and he needed every bit of energy he could save. Woke up about an hour into the storm. She was groggy and confused at first, but she quickly understood their situation. The shuttle will leave without us, she said. Yes, Ho admitted. Then how will we get off this moon? There's a secondary outpost on the far side of the moon. It's about 15 kilometers from here. If we can reach it, we can call for another shuttle. 15 kilometers, repeated, with my injured leg and broken arm. And my complete exhaustion, Ho added with a small smile. Don't forget that. Stared at him. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed. It was a short, rough sound like a bark, but it was definitely a laugh. You're making jokes, she said. We're stranded on a dying moon with no supplies and you're making jokes. Humor helps in difficult situations. It's a human thing. It's a strange thing. Humans are strange. We've established this. Was listening to their conversation with an amused expression. He's been strange since I met him. I'm starting to think it's normal for humans. Maybe, said, her yellow eyes studied Ho's face. Or maybe he's just special. The storm finally began to weaken after 2 hours. The acid rain slowed to a drizzle and then stopped completely. The clouds started to break apart, revealing the sickly green sky above. Ho stood up and stretched. His muscles screamed in protest, but he forced them to move. They had wasted too much time already. We need to go, he said. Are you sure you can make it? Asked. 15 kilometers is a long way. I'll make it, I have to. He bent down and picked up. She was lighter than before, which worried him. It meant her body was using its reserves to stay alive. She needed proper medical care soon. They left the building and stepped out into the aftermath of the storm. The ground was wet with acid residue, still steaming slightly. The air smelled like chemicals and burned rock. This way, Ho said, checking his scanner. We follow the ridge to the north, then cut east through the valley. They started walking. The pace was slow, much slower than before. Ho's legs felt like they belonged to someone else. Each step was an act of will rather than muscle. Walked beside him, watching him carefully. If you need to rest, tell me, she said. I'm fine. You're not fine. I can smell your exhaustion. Your body is shutting down. It's not shutting down, it's just complaining. Complaining. My body wants to stop. My mind won't let it. They're having a disagreement. Shook her head. Humans are not just strange, you're also stubborn. That's how we survive. They walked for another hour. The terrain was difficult, full of rocks and cracks and pools of toxic water. Ho had to watch every step, making sure he didn't fall or drop. His vision started to blur around the edges. His mouth was dry. The water was gone. He was running on nothing but determination. Ho said from his back, "Put me down." What? No. Put me down, you're going to collapse. I'm not going to collapse, I'm fine. You're lying, I can smell it. Ho kept walking. I'm not putting you down, you can't walk. Then let me try. No. Ho's voice was firm now, stronger than it had been since the collapse. You have done more for us than anyone has ever done. You have carried me for hours. You have saved my life twice. But if you keep pushing yourself like this, you will die, and I will not let that happen." Ho stopped walking. He stood there breathing hard, feeling his body shake with exhaustion. "I can't leave you," he said. His voice was rough. "I can't." "You're not leaving me. You're letting me help you. There's a difference." Moved to stand in front of him, she looked into his eyes. "She's right," said. "Let us help you for a change. You don't have to do everything alone." Ho looked at them, at with her broken arm and her fierce green eyes, at with her crushed leg and her gentle yellow gaze. They were both injured. They were both depending on him, and they were both trying to save him. "Okay," he said finally, "okay." He gently lowered to the ground. She winced as her leg touched the earth, but she didn't cry out. Instead, she looked up at Ho with something like pride in her eyes. "Thank you," she said. "Now sit, rest, just for a few minutes." Ho sat down heavily. His body immediately tried to shut down, but he fought to stay awake. He couldn't sleep. Not yet. Not until they were safe. Sat beside him. Without a word, she put her good arm around his shoulders. It was an awkward gesture, clearly unfamiliar to her, but it was warm, it was kind. "Rest," she said. "We'll watch over you, just like you watched over us." And for the first time since this mission began, Ho let himself close his eyes. Ho woke to the sound of growling. It was a low sound deep in her throat, a warning. He had heard that sound before in training. It meant danger was close. He opened his eyes immediately, his hand reaching for his weapon. The sky was still green, still toxic. He hadn't been asleep long, maybe 30 minutes. His body was screaming for more rest, but the fear in his growl pushed that aside. "What is it?" he whispered. "Something is coming," said. Her nose was lifted, testing the air. 3 of them, big, moving fast. Was already on her feet, her good hand wrapped around a piece of broken metal she had found. It wasn't much of a weapon, but it was better than nothing. "What kind of something?" Ho asked, standing up slowly. "I don't know. I've never smelled anything like it before." That was bad. Was a tracker. She had trained to identify thousands of different species by scent alone. If she didn't recognize what was coming, it meant they were dealing with something dangerous. Something that even the coalition hadn't prepared them for. Ho checked his weapon. He had a standard issue plasma rifle with about 20 shots left. It wasn't much, but it would have to be enough. "Can you tell which direction?" he asked. Pointed to the left. "From those rocks, they're using them for cover." Ho looked at the rocks she indicated. They were large, scattered across the landscape like the bones of a giant. Perfect places to hide, perfect places to hunt from. "Stay with," he said. "Keep your back to that wall, don't move unless you have to." "What are you going to do?" asked. "I'm going to see what we're dealing with." "That's stupid. You should stay here with us." "If I stay here, they'll attack us all at once. If I go out there, I can draw their attention, split them up, make them easier to deal with." His ears flattened. "That's a terrible plan." "It's the only plan we have." Before could argue more, Ho moved. He walked toward the rocks, his rifle raised and ready. His eyes scanned every shadow, every crack, every possible hiding spot. He didn't have to wait long. The creature came from behind a boulder about 20 meters ahead. It was unlike anything Ho had ever seen. It looked like a combination of a lizard and a spider, with 6 legs, a long tail, and mandibles that clicked together like knives. Its skin was the same color as the rocks around it, perfect camouflage. Its eyes, all 8 of them, were fixed on Ho. "Well," Ho said quietly to himself, "that's ugly." The creature hissed and launched itself at him. Ho fired. The plasma bolt hit the creature in the chest and sent it flying backward. It crashed into a rock and lay still. 1 down, 2 more to go. He moved to his right, keeping the rocks on his left. He needed to find the others before they found him. The second creature attacked from above. Ho didn't even see it until it was almost on top of him. He threw himself to the side and rolled, firing blindly. 2 shots missed. The third hit the creature in one of its legs. It screamed, a horrible high-pitched sound, and stumbled. Ho didn't give it time to recover. He fired again, putting 3 more shots into its body. It collapsed and didn't move. 2 down, 1 to go. He was breathing hard now. His heart was pounding. The short rest had helped, but he was still exhausted. His movements were slower than they should be. His reactions were delayed. Where was the third one? The answer came in the form of a scream, not from a creature, from. Ho turned and ran. He ran faster than he had ever run before. His legs, which had been complaining since the beginning of this nightmare, suddenly found new strength. Fear and adrenaline pushed him forward. He reached, and just in time to see the third creature closing in on them, was standing in front of, holding her piece of metal like a sword. Her broken arm hung at her side, useless, was trying to stand, but her injured leg wouldn't support her weight. The creature was bigger than the other 2. It was at least 3 meters long, with mandibles that could cut through steel. It was looking at and like they were food. "Hey!" Ho shouted. The creature turned toward him, its 8 eyes focused on this new threat. Ho fired. The shot hit the creature's shoulder and burned a hole in its skin. It screamed and charged at him. He fired again and again and again. The creature kept coming. The plasma bolts were hurting it, but they weren't stopping it. It was too big, too angry, too determined. 4 shots left, 3, 2. The creature was almost on him. Ho could see the details of its mandibles now, could see the green liquid dripping from its mouth. This was it. This was how it ended. He fired his last shot. The bolt went straight into the creature's mouth and out the back of its head. The creature's charge faltered. Its legs tangled together. It fell forward, sliding across the ground, and stopped just a meter from where Ho stood. He stared at the dead creature for a moment. Then his legs gave out, and he fell to his knees. Ho ran to him. "Are you hurt?" He looked down at himself. His uniform was torn in several places. There was blood on his arm, but he didn't remember being cut. The adrenaline had hidden the pain. I'm okay," he said. His voice was shaking. "Just tired." Knelt beside him. Her green eyes were wet with something that might have been tears. Didn't cry the way humans did, but they had their own way of showing emotion. "You saved us again," she said. "You keep saving us." "That's the job." "No, it's more than a job. I see that now." She touched his face with her good hand. Her fur was soft against his skin. "You're a good person, Ho, a truly good person." Had managed to pull herself closer. She was pale and clearly in pain, but her eyes were clear. "In all my years as a tracker," she said, "I have met many warriors, brave warriors, strong warriors, but I have never met anyone like you. You fight not for glory or duty. You fight for us, for people you barely know." Ho looked at them both. At these 2 aliens who had started this day as strangers and had become something more, not friends exactly. They hadn't known each other long enough for that, but something close. "In my culture," he said slowly, "we have a saying. A stranger is just a friend you haven't met yet. When I look at you, I don't see aliens. I see people who needed help. That's all that matters." The 3 of them sat there in silence for a moment. Around them, the toxic world of 7 continued its slow decay. The wind blew, the ground rumbled, the green sky watched without caring. But in that small space, something had changed. Something had connected. Ho's scanner beeped. He checked it with trembling hands. "The outpost is still 5 kilometers away," he said. "We need to keep moving." "Can you walk?" asked. "I have to." He tried to stand and immediately fell back down. His legs refused to work. The fight with the creatures had taken everything he had left. "I'll help you," said. She moved to his side and put her good arm around him. "Lean on me." "Your arm is broken." "Yes, but my legs work fine. Lean on me." Ho looked at, "What about you?" Bared her teeth in something that was definitely a smile this time. "I've been watching you carry me for hours. I think I can try to walk now. Just slowly." "Your leg hurts, but I've felt worse." She pushed herself to her feet, wobbling but standing. "I once had my arm torn off by a wild beast during a hunt. This is nothing compared to that." Ho blinked. "You had your arm torn off?" "Yes, they grew me a new one. Medical technology is wonderful." "I see." Laughed. It was a strange sound, like bells mixed with a cat's purr. "You look shocked, Ho. Did you think we were completely helpless?" "No, You just wanted to protect us. I know, but we're not as weak as you think. We're just injured. There's a difference." Ho felt something warm in his chest. It took him a moment to realize what it was. Pride. Not in himself, but in them. In these two aliens who refused to give up, who kept fighting even when everything told them to stop. "All right," he said, "let's go together." They started walking. It was slow going. Ho leaned on for support, limped beside them using a piece of metal as a crutch. Every step was painful. Every meter was a victory. But they were moving, they were alive, and they were together. The 5 kilometers stretched before them like an endless road. But Ho had walked endless roads before. He had always found his way to the end. This time would be no different. They walked through the afternoon. The green sky slowly darkened as another storm approached in the distance. But this one was far away. They would reach the outpost before it arrived. "Tell me about Earth," said as they walked. Her voice was strained with pain, but she seemed to want the distraction. "What do you want to know?" "Anything, everything. I've never been there." So Ho talked. He told them about the blue skies and the green forests. He told them about the oceans that stretched from horizon to horizon. He told them about the cities that never slept and the villages that time had forgotten. He told them about his home, a small town in the mountains where his family had lived for generations. And listened in silence. Their eyes were wide with wonder. "It sounds beautiful," said when he finished. "It is. It has its problems like any place, but it's home." "I would like to see it someday," said, "if we survive this." "When we survive this," Ho corrected, "not if, when." His tail wagged slightly. It was the first time he had seen her do that. "When we survive this," she repeated, "I like that." The outpost appeared on the horizon as the sun began to set. It was a small building, barely more than a shack, but it had a communication tower and a landing pad. Everything they needed. "Almost there," Ho said, "just a little further." They pushed forward, 3 broken people supporting each other through the darkness. And when they finally reached the outpost door, they fell through it together. They had made it. Against all odds, they had made it. The outpost was dark and cold, but it was shelter. Ho lay on the floor where he had fallen, unable to move. His body had finally given up. It had carried him through everything, the collapse, the tunnel, the storm, the creatures, the endless walking. But now it was done. Moved around the outpost, searching for supplies. Her broken arm slowed her down, but she didn't stop. She found emergency rations and water. She found a medical kit with basic supplies. She found a communication console that was still working. "I'm sending a distress signal," she said, her fingers moving over the controls. "Someone should hear it within a few hours." "Good," Ho managed to say. His voice was barely a whisper. Had pulled herself to his side. She lay next to him, her body warm against his. In culture, sharing body heat was a sign of trust and friendship. She was telling him without words that she considered him family now. "Rest," said, "you've done enough, rest now." Ho wanted to argue. There was still so much to do. They needed to secure the outpost. They needed to check for more creatures. They needed to plan for the rescue. But his body wouldn't listen to his mind anymore. His eyes closed and he slept. He dreamed of home, of his grandfather's house in the mountains, of sitting on the porch and watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. His grandfather was there, old and wise, with eyes that had seen 100 years of life. "You did well," his grandfather said in the dream. "You stayed true to yourself." "I was scared," Ho admitted. "Of course you were. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing what's right even when you're afraid." "I almost didn't make it." "But you did, that's what matters." Ho woke up to the sound of voices. Not's voice. Not's, different voices. Voices speaking in languages he didn't understand. He opened his eyes and saw lights, bright lights, the kind of lights that came from rescue shuttles. "He's awake," someone shouted. Suddenly there were people around him, medical personnel in white uniforms, soldiers in combat gear, officers in formal dress, all of them looking at him with expressions he couldn't read. "Sergeant Park," a voice said. It was Commander. He was standing at the edge of the crowd, his face pale and his eyes uncertain. "You're alive." "So it seems," Ho said. His voice was still weak, but it was stronger than before. Sleep had helped. "We didn't think, we assumed." "You assumed we died, I know." Commander looked uncomfortable. Good. He should be uncomfortable. He had left 3 people to die on a hostile moon. The fact that they survived was not thanks to him. "Where are you?" Ho asked. "We're here." His voice came from somewhere to his left. He turned his head and saw her standing nearby. Her arm was in a proper medical sling now, and her fur had been cleaned. She looked better than she had in hours. Was beside her, sitting in a medical chair with her leg properly bandaged and stabilized. Her yellow eyes were fixed on Ho, and she was smiling. Actually smiling. It transformed her wolf face into something almost soft. "They wouldn't leave your side," Commander said. "The medical team wanted to take them to the main ship for treatment, but they refused." "We weren't going to leave him," said. Her voice was firm, challenging anyone to argue with her. "Not after everything he did for us." "He carried me for hours," added. "He fought creatures to protect us. He refused to give up even when his body was breaking down. We're not going to abandon him just because he's unconscious." Commander was silent. He seemed to be struggling with something. Finally, he spoke. "Sergeant Park, I owe you an apology." Ho looked at him. "Sir, I gave you an order to leave. You disobeyed that order. By all rights, I should have you court-martialed." He paused. "But you saved 2 lives today. 2 people who would have died if you had followed my orders. I was wrong to give that order. I was wrong to leave them behind." Ho didn't know what to say. He had expected punishment, not apology. He had expected anger, not admission of guilt. "Permission to speak freely, sir?" he asked. "Granted." "I didn't disobey your order because I wanted to be a hero. I disobeyed it because I couldn't live with myself if I didn't. Some things are more important than orders. Some things are more important than survival." Commander nodded slowly. "I'm beginning to understand that." The medical team finally managed to get Ho onto a stretcher. As they carried him toward the shuttle and walked beside him, they didn't say anything. They didn't need to. Their presence said everything. The shuttle ride back to the main ship was quiet. Ho drifted in and out of sleep, the exhaustion finally catching up with him. But every time he woke and were there, watching over him, protecting him, just as he had protected them. When they reached the ship, there was a crowd waiting. Word had spread about what had happened on 7, the human who had stayed behind, the human who had saved 2 aliens, the human who had refused to leave anyone to die. Ho was carried through the crowd on his stretcher. He saw faces of every species, and humans and others, all of them looking at him with something he had rarely seen directed at a human before: respect. Over the next few days, as Ho recovered in the medical bay, visitors came constantly. Soldiers he had never met wanted to shake his hand. Officers wanted to hear the story from his own mouth. Reporters wanted to interview him for their networks. But the visitors who mattered most were They came every day, sometimes together, sometimes separately. They sat by his bed and talked to him about everything and nothing, about their homes, about their families, about their dreams. My father was a pilot too, told him one day. He was killed in the Second War. I joined the coalition to honor his memory, to fly like he flew. I'm sorry about your father, Ho said. It was a long time ago. I was very young. She paused. He would have liked you. He always said that the measure of a person was how they treated those who couldn't help them. You helped us when we couldn't help ourselves, when no one would have blamed you for leaving. Visited the next day. Her leg was healing well, the doctors said. She would be walking normally within a few weeks. I've been thinking about what you said, she told Ho. About strangers being friends you haven't met yet. I've shared that with others. They found it strange at first, but then they started thinking about it, really thinking. And I think you might have started something. Ears perked up in what Ho had learned was a sign of hope, a new way of thinking, about humans, about friendship, about what it means to be part of the coalition. The news spread faster than anyone expected. The story of Seven became famous across the galaxy, not because it was a great battle or a major victory, but because it was something simpler, something more profound. A human had stayed behind. A human had risked everything to save two aliens. A human had shown that compassion knew no species boundaries. 3 weeks after their rescue, Ho was officially discharged from the medical bay. He was told to report to the main briefing room for a special ceremony. He walked into the room expecting a small gathering. Instead, he found hundreds of people, officers from every species in the coalition, ambassadors from a dozen worlds, reporters from media networks he had never heard of. And at the front of the room, standing together, were End. The ceremony was formal and long, filled with speeches about duty and honor and sacrifice. Ho stood at attention through all of it, feeling uncomfortable with so much attention. But then stepped forward. I was told that humans were weak, she said, her voice carrying across the silent room. I was told that humans were selfish. I was told that humans would abandon anyone who slowed them down. She paused. I was told wrong. Stepped forward next. On Seven, I saw the truth about humans. I saw a human carry me for hours when he could barely walk himself. I saw a human fight monsters to protect us. I saw a human refuse to give up even when everything told him to quit. Her yellow eyes found Ho's face. I saw a hero, not a human hero, just a hero. The room erupted in applause. Ho stood there overwhelmed, not knowing what to do or say. After the ceremony, when the crowd had finally dispersed, and found him alone on an observation deck, looking out at the stars. You look uncomfortable, said. I'm not used to this kind of attention. You'll have to get used to it. You're famous now. The human who stayed behind. The human who proved everyone wrong. I didn't do it to prove anything. I did it because it was right. We know, said, that's why it matters. The three of them stood in silence watching the stars. So many worlds out there, so many species, so many stories yet to be written. What will you do now? Asked. I don't know, go back to Earth eventually, see my family, think about the future. Will you stay in the coalition? Ho thought about it. He thought about everything he had been through, everything he had learned, everything he had gained. Yes, he said finally, I think I will. There's still work to do, still people to help. Smiled. On her feline face it looked like a sunrise. Then you won't be alone, she said. Where you go, we go, that's how it works now. We're a team. A pack, corrected. In culture we call it a pack. Ho looked at them, at with her green eyes and her fierce spirit, at with her yellow eyes and her gentle strength, at these two aliens who had started as strangers and had become something more. A pack, he repeated, I like that. The three of them stood together watching the stars. Behind them the galaxy continued its endless dance. Wars would be fought. Alliances would be formed. History would be made. But in that moment, none of that mattered. In that moment, there was only this. 3 people who had found each other in the darkness. 3 people who had refused to let each other go. 3 people who had become a pack. And that was enough.